right now. Cat, meow. Told you I want that dog. I don't want no cat. Bring that dog with you to New York, bro. Okay. Now, will the Karl Anthony Towns trade backfire for both the Knicks and the Timberwolves? And whoever want to go first here, I'm gonna just lob this up freely. I go second. That's all I'm gonna say. But whoever want to go first, mic is yours.
I'll take it. I'll start by saying this. I like the trade a lot for the Timberwolves. I think that Donte DiVincenzo is a dog. He's got that it factor. I think he's a phenomenal player. And I think you could even make the case that he was right there beside Jalen Brunson as the best Knick and the most impactful Knick in the playoffs last year. I think when Julius Randle went down, he was the guy that really shined. And I think he's going to thrive playing next to Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels in Minnesota. Now, the Wolves have to figure out what exactly they're going to do with Julius Randle. I think they just need to find the right spot and the proper role for him, which makes this a little more complicated. But I've been on the belief that if the Timberwolves wanted to win a championship, they had to move off Karl Anthony Towns and give Anthony Edwards full reign of this team. And they did that. So for that reason, I think this is a success. And to be honest, when I'm looking at contenders in the Western Conference next year, I would put the Timberwolves right up there with the Mavericks. I think those are the two best teams in the West entering next season. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if we get a rematch of the Western Conference Finals, the same one we saw last year, Dallas and Minnesota. I think those are the two best teams in the West right now. From the Knicks' perspective, I think it's complicated because they had to get rid of Julius Randle. That was a move that they had to make. Again, I think last year, his absence was a big addition by subtraction. You saw guys like Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, Anunoby, all those guys, McBride, they really thrived in his absence. And I think giving Jalen Brunson full reins, full control of the team is a good thing. But I just don't know if this was the move to do it. I think we forget just how impactful Donte DiVincenzo was for the Knicks in the playoffs last year. That shot that he hit against the 76ers in game 2, in my opinion, is one of the best shots in the history of the franchise. And the fact that he missed it on the first time, Hardenstein got the rebound and kicked it right back out to him, like that'll go down in the history books as an all-time shot. And if he misses that shot, I think there's a good chance the Knicks would have lost that series to the Sixers because we know how close and tightly contested that series was. So I think that's a brutal loss. And I just loved, like, the Knicks traded for Mikal Bridges. They were selling us on the Villanova connection. You know, all four of these guys, Brunson, Hart, DiVincenzo, Bridges, they all played together in college at Villanova. They won national championships together. And all of a sudden, DiVincenzo's gone before it even starts. I think that's a bummer. Also, I should mention that DiVincenzo in Game 7 against the Pacers, I know the Knicks lost that game, but he went 9 of 15 from the field, from 3, I should say, and scored 39 points. One of the best performances I've seen in a Game 7 despite a losing effort. And my main point here, guys, is like Karl Anthony Towns. I'm just not a fan, especially when you're playing him at the 5. I think that Hardenstein, that loss is going to really, really backfire too, because he was consistent, a great rebounder, had great chemistry with Brunson. And if Mitchell Robinson can stay healthy, I would like this deal a little more, but he's not healthy. And I'm even hearing that it's likely that he's going to be traded. I just don't love Karl Anthony Towns playing the 5. And look, the Knicks, they have a clear, wide open championship window right now. They want the most talented roster as possible. They want to take advantage of it. But I have my questions. I don't know if there's enough shooting on this team right now. And Karl Anthony Towns at the 5, I just don't love that look. And I think we're going to be looking back on this trade as a big what if. What if the Knicks would have kept the Villanova foursome together, and would things have worked out differently? I, to be honest, wasn't a huge fan of the trade, and I think it's going to backfire on the Knicks, but not the Wolves. I really do.
All right, man. We might as well get right to it. I do believe that the trade will backfire on the Timberwolves. I don't think it's going to backfire on the Knicks. Now, of course, there's risk in this, right? I think anytime you do a player for player, a trade, amongst contenders, there's going to be risk on both sides, right? I think that's just, it's always going to be risk, right? We know Tibbs demands defensive accountability. Okay, and Cat is not known for his defense. Clearly, he's an offensive-minded big. I get it. But they worked together before in the Timberwolves. It was a little bit rocky, but we saw Cat rebounding and doing some of the little things a little bit more. in other areas, and then he's regressed a little bit since. But I thought he did good on Jokic in the playoffs to me. But for me, the Knicks won this trade for two reasons primarily. They got the more versatile player in the deal. They fulfilled the need, which is the center position. They needed depth in the front court, right? And I do believe that, when it's all said and done, that they match up better against Boston. Think about it. You could play Cat at the 4 or at the 5, so he gives you lineup versatility. And if you want against Boston, you could go stretch 5 for stretch 5 and match up against them like that. Okay, I think we match up against Boston. I really do. Now, obviously, we got to beat Boston, and it's funny because the Timberwolves, they made a team to beat the Nuggets, and they beat the Nuggets, but then they lost to the Mavericks. But look, I do believe Boston is going to be there when it's all said and done. Now, if you flip it and you look at the Timberwolves, I mean, and those driving lanes, it's going to be cramped up with Julius Randle there. Julius Randle, and salute to him. I really want to, give him some credit here, maybe in my next lap, because we have to remember that guy for what he's did or what he's done for New York. But he's a ball dominant guy. Okay, can he and Ant coexist? Listen, I hate losing Donte DiVincenzo. I really do. Right? If we could have kept him out the deal, I would have preferred that alternative, but we couldn't. Okay. Now, the Timberwolves, they made a move that was about the future. They wanted to, forego Cat's $220 million deal because of the second apron. So they're making moves financially and long term and not focusing on moves or just running it back. You owe it to the fans. Last year, y'all should have made the finals. Okay, and y'all lost to the Mavericks. It is what it is. It was a good series, but you owe it to the fans to run that back. And the fact of the matter is, we out here trying to compete for a championship, and you thinking about the future? You thinking about getting off a contract right now? No, we need to be thinking about right now. And I get it. The NBA is a business. I understand that aspect of it. But to me, it's like taking a minor step back for me if I'm the Timberwolves. Whereas the Knicks, we ain't thinking about, long-term implications. Right now, we are thinking about competing for a championship. And what Cat does and brings to our team is spacing, okay, which is going to pull centers away from the paint, and he can get you rebounds. And we just hope that he stays healthy. Like I said, there's risk, of course. I'll be the first one to tell you. I told you. It's risk in this. In any move you do, most of the time is risk. But does the risk outweigh the rewards? And we'll have yet to find out. But on paper right now, and I understand paper don't play, but on paper, I think the Knicks will not regret the move. I think the Timberwolves would or will.
Before I even get my take, I just want to give the flowers to Julius Randle, top 10 New York Knicks of all time. A player who came here when they had absolutely nothing to play for. A guy who took the Knicks to the playoffs, that expedited the competitive process so that they could gather and go after more talented players to come play for New York. A guy who allowed other guys to see New York as a destination, not just as a bypass point when they're coming to visit the Garden just to kill us. Julius Randle means a lot to the New York organization, and the fans need to give him more flowers and respect because we are not here without his contributions to the organization today. I say all that to say this trade is a win-win for both teams. Why is it a win for the Timberwolves? Because they get a shooter back, a crucial piece that they've been missing for many years, right? Cat was their best three-point shooter for the last several years. Karl Anthony Towns, he was their best three-point shooter for the last several seasons for that team, and that's a problem when your tallest player is your best three-point shooter. They needed shooting. Donte DiVincenzo was on their radar. He was a phenomenal piece for the Knicks this past season. He's had a tremendous career with the Warriors and the Bucks, and he has done nothing but play great basketball for in and out. And I think as he will be missed, despite his historic career with the Knicks this past season, he's going to do wonders for Minnesota because they're going to utilize him in the same way because they need shooting. Julius Randle is a bully ball type of player that Minnesota was missing because it can't just be Anthony Edwards doing everything on both sides of the floor because he was that bully ball type of player and scorer, but he can't be that and your superstar player at the same time. You needed somebody who's going to go in there and be physical with other guys, especially a forward who could push around other centers and box them out and do a lot of different intangibles that you don't want Anthony Edwards doing because he is your end-all, be-all for that team. Them trading Cat was 100% because they brought in Rudy Gobert. They had Rudy Gobert who came in on a max contract. They just gave Anthony Edwards a crazy contract, super max, and then you paid Karl Anthony Towns as well. If they would have kept Karl Anthony Towns, there would have been no other additions they can make for that team for the next 4 to 5 years, which is horrible. So I understand the move that they made. Now for the Knicks, I understand that Mitchell Robinson's injury till January was a big caution tape. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein. They were not comfortable with starting the season with Jericho Sims or Precious Achiuwa at the center position. They had Karl Anthony Towns. On their radar apparently since draft day because they knew the crucialness of their injuries at the center position. They had no depth at the center position. They knew that they had to go out and get somebody, and Karl Anthony Towns has been on their radar for a very long time. Rumors been sparing about him for years, and they finally looked at him draft day. They said they couldn't get it with the Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson trade, so they were able to get it down to Donte DiVincenzo and a future first-round pick that belongs to the Detroit Pistons. I think the Knicks did a fantastic job getting a player that spaces out the floor, and now we're actually going to see, for the first time in Knicks history, a 5-out team when you have 5 players that can hit a 3 at the same exact time. That is spacing we've never seen before as a Knicks fan base, and I don't think it's going to backfire for either team because either team has made a lot of the question marks disappear. I think they both brought in guys who are going to enhance their gameplay, that's going to enhance their team. And also a caveat for the Timberwolves, Chris Finch was the assistant coach for the Pelicans when Julius Randle was there, which was his career best year at the time on the Pelicans. So I think there's a lot of things that need to go into factor when talking about where these guys are going. Everybody's going to a place that they played somewhere before, a system that was similar. So I think this is going to be a good faction for both teams. I think both are going to be successful in either conference to going further.
Look, I would like to jump in here for my second lap real quickly here. Now, I do want to give credit to Julius Randle. Well, I won't say credit, but like flowers, on his way out. I'm not going to do him like Marlon Wayans from the Rain show. Peace out. Nah, don't disrespect that man, Kenny. Okay. He did a lot. Okay, Kenny. He made us, fall in love with the Knicks again. In the era where we thought we was getting KD and Kyrie, and we signed him to, I believe it was a 3-year deal. I think we was doing all 3-year deals or something like that. And then he made an All-NBA team, a couple. Well, was going to make another one last year if he didn't get hurt. And, man, look where we are. We are in a position to improve our roster because of him. And I think it kind of goes back to my point about risk. It's always going to be risk. Look at Brooklyn, right? When they got KD and Kyrie Irving. Remember, they built the foundation there, like with D'Lo and Karis LeVert, and then they went for the gusto. And sure, the gusto ended up being a mistake. But let's not act like if they didn't go for the gusto, that D'Lo was going to lead them to a daggone NBA Finals. No. Okay, look at where D'Lo is right now. Look at where Karis LeVert is right now. Look at where Jared Allen is right now. He's still a good player, but you get my point. Okay, that team was not winning a championship regardless, but they took the swing. And sure, the swing it failed, and because they didn't move on from it is why they got deeper and deeper and deeper to the basement. Okay, we taking a swing here, but that's because we have a championship window that we are trying to maximize here. And when you look at Brunson and Randall, we made it work, but we cannot forget that it was kind of your turn, my turn, ISO type of offense there with Julius Randle and Brunson, right? Now we got a guy who fits complementary to our starting lineup and doesn't need the ball to be effective, okay? Now, look at the history, the last couple of years, right, in particular, of fives that can shoot the rock. Okay, let's talk about Jokic a couple years ago. Matter of fact, before we get to Jokic, last year, Kristaps Porzingis, what he added to Boston's lineup was crucial. And I understand he was hurt, but he added a crucial element to Boston with his ability to space the rock as a 5. Same thing with Jokic. He was shooting threes in the playoffs and in the finals, and they won. The year before that, Brooke Lopez, right, was shooting the 3-ball, space the floor. It matters. It helps out tremendously. Health is always going to be a concern, obviously. But if we are healthy and we look at our starting 5, I think we could go up against anybody in the NBA.
So, well, I thought you brought up a good point in your first lap about the Knicks really being built to beat Boston, because I agree with you. I do think even like it's interesting too. The Knicks and Celtics didn't even play in the playoffs last year, but we're all kind of in agreement that like, okay, the Knicks would have given Boston the biggest threat of anyone that they could have seen. And I would have loved to see that series. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do that. But the Knicks, I think if they were healthy in that Pacers series last year, they would have won and they would have played Boston in the conference finals. And who knows what would have ended up happening. And I honestly already thought that the Knicks before this made their big move of the offseason to go for it. They got Mikal Bridges from their crosstown rivals, a move that not a lot of people thought would even be possible considering the two teams are in the same city and given the state of the Nets right now. But somehow Leon Rose made it happen. But I think we're honestly just undervaluing how good Donte DiVincenzo was in the playoffs for the Knicks last year. I really do think that he was their second best player behind Brunson. And their third best player is also gone, Hardenstein, which is a big loss. And I don't think Karl Anthony Towns has that dog. Yeah, he put up solid numbers in the playoffs last year. He was great in that game 7 against Denver, but then he got benched against Dallas. He was terrible in the first 3 games of that series and was a big reason why they lost. And I just don't view him, if he's one of your best players, like I don't know if I could view you as a championship team. Now, what the Knicks are hoping is that culture that they've built will be able to get the most out of him. And it helps. I think that Tom Thibodeau has coached him in the past, but I have a hard time believing that's going to happen. And with that Nets comparison, this Knicks team, if they would have just stood put with DiVincenzo and, I think you had to get rid of Randall, but I don't know if this was the right move to do it for a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, and you really had to give up DiVincenzo. I just think we're going to be looking back on this move and wondering what could have been if they would have just kept it the same. And even if the Knicks beat Boston, I just don't know if they have the versatility to go up against some of the other teams in the East, because I think we're forgetting about a team like Philly, forgetting about a team like Milwaukee. Orlando's coming on. So this is a better Eastern Conference, I think, than a lot of people realize.
Real quick, Lil, before you get in here, I wanted to say, you are okay with losing a Donte DiVincenzo when you have Mikal Bridges. Donte DiVincenzo was going to have a reduced role on this Knicks team if they would have stood as is, because you brought in a Cameron Payne, because Miles McBride is coming up and he's playing more of a shooting guard role than a point guard role, and that's why they brought in a Cameron Payne. You have Josh Hart coming off the bench if you would have kept Randall and Donte and not trade for Cat. So you have an influx of players that have to play on the court because you don't have enough kind of wing players. So you're essentially kind of playing undersized off the bench as is. And how much minutes is Donte going to get over Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby? It's probably going to be less than 20, even whatever he did in the playoffs. So his role was going to be severely reduced no matter what, because of the addition of Bridges.
And let me just add on to that real quickly, Zay. And the fact that he got a larger role is why he had that breakout that he had. We can't forget about that as well. The opportunity with the Julius Randle injury propelled him to have the year he had.
And real quick, and I also want to comment on Kenny. First of all, talking about we. What what? Are you French now? You're not a Knicks fan. You're a Warriors fan. And you try to slip into, oh yeah, we're gonna see the best duo we ever seen on it. Like, what are you talking about? But I think right now, right, in terms of Mikal Bridges, right, he has to play 30 plus minutes. OG Anunoby, he has to play 30 plus minutes. And Miles McBride, after the playoff he just had, you have to give him his due. He deserves that spot to get more minutes. Cameron Payne has big playoff minutes, and he's a good isolation scorer. Josh Hart's going to get his minutes. So, unfortunately, as great as Donte was for us and this organization for that 1 year he played, it's an historical year nonetheless. But he had really no true role on this upcoming season because of the addition of Mikal Bridges. I think Bridges is going to amplify what Donte did plus more, because Bridges is a better defender than Donte. Not because Donte doesn't defend, it's just because Bridges is a taller player, lanky arms, and he guards the best of the best on the team, especially OG Anunoby. And, Kenny, you are absolutely right in terms of entertaining duo, because Karl Anthony Towns is going to space out the floor, something we've never seen. And I know Zach said he doesn't really like Cat on a defensive end, but he actually defended Jokic in the Denver series extremely well. He defended really well. In terms of the Dallas Mavericks, there's not much you can do because the Dallas Mavericks kick out to the three a lot, which allowed guys like PJ Washington, guys like Kleber and Kyrie and Luka Doncic. All these guys are shooting threes. And the Mavericks kind of killed the Minnesota Timberwolves just off the strength of shooting the three ball because they were able to space out everybody. And it got to the point where Rudy Gobert was unplayable because he can't space out at all. He can't guard the perimeter and the paint at the same time. But I think Karl Anthony Towns is not going to have to do both because you have two great wing defenders in Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby who are able to slide over and protect the rim at a still high velocity as they protect the perimeter three-point line.
And I like that dynamic of him with Mitchell Robinson, depending on if we keep him, which, I think we should, because he's the more, better defender than Cat is. He could protect the rim, and stuff like that, and do things that, switch and do things that Cat wouldn't do. So I think that would complement each other well, barring that we keep Mitchell Robinson. But my last point here, and then I'm done on my end, is that I think it's going to come down to health, right? And I understand that's cliche because that's like in general, you got to be healthy in order to win a championship. But if you look at these numbers, Towns, he missed 35% of his regular season games over the past 5 years, and Anunoby missed 29% in the same span, and Mitchell Robinson missed 34%. So obviously health is going to matter. And another thing that's going to matter too, another X factor here, is Miles McBride coming off that bench. He took a leap last year. Tibbs felt comfortable inserting him into the starting lineup if needed, especially in the playoffs. He felt comfortable with him. If he can take another leap, that can kind of like mask maybe some of the depth concerns that, a lot of people are saying that we have. So, yeah, that's my take.
My last thought on this, I like the trade for the Timberwolves because I do actually think getting rid of Karl Anthony Towns is an addition by subtraction. I think if they would have kept Karl Anthony Towns, they would never have won a championship with him. I thought Zay brought up a good point. The mixture with him and Gobert, it never worked. It was never going to work. And I like the fact that they cut bait with it right now. And you give more opportunity to a guy like Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, and you have DiVincenzo. Now they're going to have to figure out a role for Randle. I honestly think he should come off the bench. I don't know if he'd be willing to do that, but hopefully Minnesota has built a well enough culture under Chris Finch to have that happen, because I think that would be the best move for them. My thing with the Knicks trade is this is a move you make that if you think it's the last piece to making you a championship team, and maybe I'll buy the argument that it makes you more sustained to beat Boston, but I just don't know if this move makes you a championship team. And that's what it ultimately is going to come down to. That's what's going to make it worth it. And again, I would have loved to see the Knicks just run it back with the same team as last year, just with Bridges after that big deal and DiVincenzo. But unfortunately, we'll never know.
No, honestly, that's unfortunately they made this trade. It has to work, right? You have your window 3 years. There's not going to be another big move that you can make in order to. This is it. If it's not it, then you're not going to win a chip. Then you got to just kind of relinquish everybody. But hopefully, this is the team that eventually wins that championship.
Yeah. Any last words on this topic before we go to halftime?
I think we're good. But boys, I'm gonna have to bounce. Big playoff baseball game on. Let's go Mets. I'll see you guys next week.
Salute to the Mets, and Zach, we'll see you next week. Zay will be right back in 2 minutes? We'll be back. Right. Salute my guy Zach. Folks, make sure you stick around. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Keep it locked.
We as a Knicks fan base didn't recognize that James Dolan has been the absolute reason the Knicks are at this very point to this very day. He is an owner who has hired the most minorities in power at the front office position, as head coaches, everywhere that has been implemented, in the bricks and the stone and the foundation of the New York Knicks has been because of James Dolan. He shells out the money. He's not stingy with it. He's not saying, I'm not paying this guy. He has given everybody an opportunity to fix this organization, all the way down from Phil Jackson, Isaiah Thomas, Grunwald, Steve Mills, Scott Perry, all these different
Donnie
names. Donnie Walsh, all these different names that's gotten to this very point where he hired Leon Rose, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. An agent at one particular time, owner of CAA. I'm not owner, but one of the co-founders of CAA. Like, Leon Rose was laid off the foundation to let Leon Rose get a job. Leon Rose gets in. Nobody likes him. Everyone's already saying, "Oh, get James Dolan out of here. He's making the bad hires. He doesn't know what he's doing." As an owner, all he could do was give out the money. And he has never been shy handing out money. James Dolan, since I've been a Knicks fan, has never been shy handing out money whatsoever. So he allows Leon Rose to get the position. He brings in Worldwide West. He brings in all those different guys. Brings in Mike Woodson as a coach. Brings in Tom Tibbs. And now we have the trifecta. Tom Thibodeau, Leon Rose, Worldwide West, William Wesley in the building. Getting the free agents, getting the guys to this organization, drafting guys, developing them, moving them to get OG Anunoby, moving them to get Mikal Bridges, to bring in a guy like Jalen Brunson, to get a guy like Julius Randle, who was the first player since Carmelo Anthony to want to come to New York. The guy that said, I want to come to New York.
Ish. Go ahead,
I want to come to New York. I want to play. And now we have a situation where the Knicks finally have a championship window open, where the Knicks are finally a team that people want to come to, that want to play for them, that want to wear the orange and blue, that want to hit a hard knock life in the Garden.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.